Welcome to Lead with AC. My focus and my desire is to help you grow. Lead with AC exists to add value to you. My vision is to influence world changers. My mission is to inspire you to become a better you. Why? Because when you get better, the world gets better. Because I truly believe that you are a world changer. We're in a series titled Christ and Leadership, where we are studying leadership through the person of Jesus. Jesus, in 3 short years, transformed, went on to change the world through his influence, through his people. In our introduction to this series, I mentioned why we should study the leadership of Jesus. And one of those reasons is that the very air that we breathe in the West, when it comes to values and human rights, is influenced and derived by the ideas, the teachings, and the thoughts of Jesus. For example, the seed for our belief that the church and state should be separated and not united as one is rooted in a teaching from Jesus found in 3 of the early biographies of Jesus. You can find the teaching in Mark 12, Matthew 21, and Luke 20. Jesus is asked in those stories whether or not one should pay taxes to Caesar by a group of religious individuals. The question was asked not in an inquiring way, like I want to know whether or not we should pay taxes. The question was actually asked by these religious people as a way to trap Jesus, to commit him to a place where they could say, yep, there you go, we caught him. He's not really a good teacher. He's not really who he said he is. He's not someone worthy of being followed. They asked him to trap him because his answer, whichever way he go, whether we should pay taxes to Rome, was gonna either make him an enemy of Rome or a friend of Rome. Neither of a position worth having. One, you don't want to be a friend of Rome because Rome is killing your local population and enslaving them. And 2, you don't want to be a friend of Rome because they're killing your people. So the local people are going to hate you for doing that. And Jesus, to their question, answered with this: one should render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. And the religious leaders pretty much left with their tail between their legs, walking away with their heads down. And in response, now, because of Jesus' teaching, the seed for our modern belief that the church and the state should be separate was born. For the belief that the church should not run the government or the government run the church. That was planted in that seed of Jesus. It is a uniquely Christian idea. Look at the Middle East or India, for example, and what you will see there is that religion plays a huge role when it comes to running the government, including what women are allowed or not allowed to do and what is acceptable. I could go on and mention how Jesus' disciples went on to eventually create hospitals, elevate the view of women in the world, made education available for all, elevated the sacredness of life, and a bunch of other things. But that is not the point. I only mentioned what I mentioned to remind us why we do want to study the leadership of Jesus. And today, I want to mention what I think is the most important leadership lesson we can learn from Jesus, and that is humility. Now, I'm not saying if you're a Christian that this is the most important lesson Jesus taught, or the most important thing we must do. I'm saying as a leadership lesson, when we are looking at this is the most important lesson we could learn from Jesus about leadership, and it is humility. Leadership, as Marilyn Gist writes in her book, Leadership, the Power of Humility, requires working together. If you want to lead, then you must help people work together. A leader without people is not a leader. It's just an individual. In order to lead, you need a group to lead. You need to have people walking with you. If they're not coming with you, if you're not leading anyone, then you're just taking a walk by yourself. Yet this is where it gets interesting, because many of us think that leadership is all about giving commands. Go and do this or go and do that. And leadership does require the ability to command people, but that is not what leadership truly is. That is part of leadership. Leadership is influence. It's being able to move people towards a certain direction. And if you want people to follow you, to go with you, then you gotta be able to create and foster an environment where they want to come with you and be with you. You have to inspire them to join you on the journey. Command leadership, the kind of leadership that just tells you what to do and that's what you got to do because the leader told you to, eventually ends up with people giving you just enough to get by, enough to get you off their backs. Transformational leadership. Leadership that inspires people and changes the world. Leadership that leaves a lasting legacy. That people are willing to sacrifice themselves to give all for it. That's the kind of transformation leader that you want to be. Transformational leadership is created, is empowered, is undergirded by humility. Humility is a value that undergirds all the other values, but it wasn't a value in Jesus' time. Jesus lived in a society concerned with honor and shame. What you wanted was to be honored, to gain honor, and to avoid shame at all cost. What mattered was what people thought of you, not what you thought of yourself. Like many of us today think that, oh man, I just gotta believe in me and think of me. And that wasn't how it was in the time of Jesus. It did not matter what you think of you. It only mattered what other people thought of you. So they had what is called a dyadic personality, which is all about other people. What do other people think of me? That's all that matters. Because all that matters is that I gain honor, that I'm seen as someone worthy of respect, worthy of glory. Everything you did was to gain honor. It was made so that people would admire you. The value of humility would have been considered abnormal, something just plain stupid at the time. What would have been normal would be, like I said, to seek glory, to seek honor, to build big structures, to develop a great following, to have statues built for you, to build things and temples so that your name could be on it, to do whatever you can to position yourself as above other people. Jesus instead taught that was not the way of the kingdom, the way of love, that was not how you are to lead or live, that is not the way that you even create or foster an environment for people to be in. Jesus modeled what humility is like. He showed humility in multiple ways. For one, he invited all kinds of people that were different than him and different than each other to join him. He was concerned, if he was concerned with gaining honor, his invitation would only go to other people that would give him honor, that would elevate him. He would have found the people that were admirable in society and say, hey, I want to be your friend. Come follow me. Come be part of my disciples. He would have only found people that would add value, would add honor, the honor of value to him. He would have not done what he did. But because he wasn't concerned with honor the way that we think, instead, Jesus invited all kinds of people to be with him. The 12 disciples that he chose were a compilation of people that would have not been considered very honorable. In his 12 disciples, he included a zealous Jew, some fishermen. Fishermen, do you know how bad they smell sometimes? Out there working in the seawater. That's gonna stink after a while. And even tax collectors. A zealous Jew would want nothing but to kill the tax collector because the tax collector was considered to be an enemy of the Jew. So Jesus is now inviting people who are looking at each other saying, you're not honorable, you're not honorable, you're not honorable. How this adding honor to me? And the people outside of Jesus are probably looking at Jesus saying, those are his disciples? Dude, what are you doing, man? If you want to really become someone, if you're saying you're a teacher, if you're saying you're the Messiah, the expected one that everyone's waiting for, that's not the way to go, man. What are you doing? But Jesus modeled humility by inviting different people. Jesus united the zealous and the tax collector to one another. He brought them together. He created an environment where they could see each other as brothers, not as enemies. Jesus, on top of that, approached and talked to all kinds of people. In Jesus' time, your gender and your race matter intensely, matter more than you could imagine. A man would not be seen talking to a woman from a different race, for example. It couldn't. It just wouldn't happen. That's not something you did in Jesus' time. And Jesus, he broke the barriers. He taught women, for example. He elevated him and he said, sit with me and learn and grow. And eventually you could go on and teach even what I'm teaching you. Women supported his ministry. Jesus approached and talked and touched those who were outcast from society because of disease. Lepers being one group of people that Jesus talked to. He not only talked to them, he walked towards them and he touched them and he healed them. Something that would have been completely dishonoring. Lepers had to walk around saying, leper, 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 so that people would stay away. They had a part of town where they were expected to be. And Jesus welcomes them and heals them and touches them. Some of them hadn't been touching 20 years since they got the leprosy. Jesus invited them. He gave them a place to belong. Jesus talked to those of other race and talked to them with love, respect, and kindness. There's that story in John, I think it's John 4, where Jesus meets a woman at a well. She's the wrong race. So the conversation quickly turns about race, but Jesus is not interested in that. Jesus is interested in adding value to her. She was a social outcast. She came at the worst time of the day, at noon. Why? Because she had prior divorces, 6 divorces, and the man she was living with wasn't even her husband, something unacceptable during that time. So Jesus is talking to a woman who is a social outcast, who is of the wrong race, to the point that she goes, why are you talking to me? Aren't you a Jew? You're not supposed to be talking to me. But the value of humility allows you to see people differently. So Jesus wasn't a worry whether or not he was going to be seen as dishonorable. Jesus taught that all humans are loved by God and were made by God. That God desired all to come to knowledge of God. Jesus illustrated this through his teachings that one was to welcome those who were rejected. Jesus has a story in Luke 14 where he tells someone, he's actually dining, and then he breaks into a story that's amazing. But in the dinner, he tells the person that invited him, a person of high honor, a religious leader, he tells him, you should invite the lame and the sick, you should invite the poor, you should invite those who cannot repay you. But of course, he would not have done that, because you only want to invite people that give you honor. And Jesus is saying, no, don't invite the ones that can pay you and give you more honor. Invite the one that cannot repay you. Jesus modeled humility even by serving his disciples. On John 13, you could read that Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Something completely unheard of. That's not what a leader does. At that time, they had sandals. They walked on dirt, and people didn't go to the bathrooms like we did. So sometimes you could step on things you didn't want to step on. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus bent down and washed his disciples' feet, telling them, "This is how you are to be with one another. If I served you, you are to serve one another." He taught them that if you want to be the first in the kingdom, you had to become the servant of all. He said that those that follow him to lead and rule will not rule like the rulers of their time. It wouldn't be a command leadership of telling you what to do, but it would be a servant leadership. Servant leadership is leadership that serves, that is seeking the best for their people. We're going to take a look at this value because this is actually that a field of leadership that emerged I think it was in the 70s, strongly, but it's truly grounded on the leadership model of Jesus, the servant leadership model. Jesus modeled what leadership looked like and what humility looked like. And now let me quickly kind of define what humility is, because I think at this point you might be wondering, but what is humility? Humility is not thinking less of yourself or pretending that you aren't gifted or unique or skilled. That is not what humility is. If you do a Google search, humility would be defined as a modest or low view of one's own importance. And they would, semicolon, humbleness. That's actually not a very good definition of what humility is either, not according to Jesus. Merriam-Webster would say it is freedom from pride or arrogance. I think that gets a little closer to it. It's better to it. I think a good definition of humility, according to Jesus, is not thinking less of yourself or having a low view of yourself, but thinking less about yourself. In other words, it is coming to a place where you forget about you and all that you want, and you serve other people for their good. You are unique, and you are good in certain areas where you alone thrive, where you alone could contribute to people. And the point is not to ignore those, nor to ignore them like you don't have it, nor to elevate them above everybody else like it's the only thing that matters. The point is to use yourself, everything you are, in a way that benefits others. So humility is not thinking less of yourself, like, oh man, I suck, I'm a terrible person. No, you see how humble I am? Woohoo! Humility is not that. Humility is thinking less about yourself, being less concerned about you. Really kind of just living in the moment by loving people, not just being focusing on what can I get, rather what can I give. The way that in other words, like what I'm trying to say is that you're doing what you do because it's you, but you aren't concerned with just your doing. You are concerned with benefiting others. By the way, this would mean that you seek to be the best you could be in whatever it is you do. You seek to be the best you could ever be. But you don't seek it as a way to stand out, but as a way to help others succeed. You know, Michael Jordan was the best basketball player. You could argue in the comment section and say, no, it's LeBron James. But Michael Jordan was the best basketball player to ever play the game. His individual skills were incredible and set him apart from everyone else. They made him stand out. But when he worked to get better, he did it not just so he could stand out. He did it to benefit the team. To win the championships as the Bulls did, Jordan had to get better to benefit the team. The team's success, as well as his own success, depended on them together, working together and getting better together, not just him getting better. If Jordan would have only focused on his numbers and accolades and his statistics, they would have never won the championships they did. He had to grow himself and then say, I'm not going to be interested in how many numbers I score, how many assists I do. I'm not going to be interested in the historical numbers. I'm going to be interested in how much we as a team score, because the point of the game is to win the game. So you seek, in other words, to be your best, but you realize at the same time that not only do you seek to be your best, that you need others in order to do great things together. So you don't diminish what you're good at. You pour gasoline on it. You make it better. You grow it. But you're not to think that that is the only thing that will make you win. You need others, and so you seek to grow them and serve them so that together you can transform the world, so that you can win together. Here's what humility allows us to do. When we think not less about ourselves, but less about ourselves, not less of ourselves, but less about ourselves, we're able to value others and see them as valuable. We're no longer concerned of whether or not, am I the right person? Am I the one? No, man. We're concerned with saying, man, I know you have something to contribute, and I want to draw that out of you. I want to help you win. I want us to work together. So I'm going to work with you to draw the best out of you as I give you my best, because I value you. So humility allows us to value others and see them as valuable. It also allows us to listen to others seeking to understand. Sometimes we all listen just to prove a point, or we listen just to listen and respond back to what they're saying. Humility says, no, I'm going to listen to you, seeking to understand what you're saying so that we could actually work together, knowing what it is that we're actually saying. You know how many relationships would be better if we listen to understand? If we sought understanding rather than just responses, rather than just being responsive to what they're saying or defensive, if we just said, let me just pause, be humble. This person has something to contribute to me, something to say to me, so let me just take a breather and seek to understand what they're saying. Humility allows us to consider other people's opinion and then to apply them. Not just to think that our opinion is the best. To say, man, well, this is what I think and this is what I do, so therefore you must do it. But to say, hey, here's an idea, here's a thought. What do you all think? And how do we make this better? And you listen to them with a good heart, thinking, yes, they have things to contribute, things that they could add to this idea to make it better. Humility allows us to recognize that everyone has something to contribute. I like to say that I have something to contribute to you and you have something to contribute to me. And I want you to contribute it to me because you're going to make me grow. I have to learn. I still have a lot of places to grow, and you help me grow. And humility allows us to treat everyone with respect. It allows us to see that every person is worthy of dignity, that they're worthy of respect and love and appreciation, that everyone should be respected, that we are to guard their boundaries and not to abuse them and be offensive towards them. This is what humility allows us to do. This is why humility undergirds all the other values. I can't value you unless I'm humble enough to see that you actually do matter and that you are a person of value. I can't listen to you truthfully unless I allow the humility to know that you actually are going to share with me things that are true. And not only that, but I need to consider it and apply what you're telling me as well. And then I need to recognize that your ideas are going to contribute to the good of the team. It's going to lead me to treat you with respect, to see that you have something to offer. Humility creates an environment where we can thrive together, grow together, and win together. It's the value that undergirds all the other values. In application, because really, if we want to be transformational leaders, we can't just learn, we must apply. I want to ask you some questions that maybe you could take some time to ask yourself and work through. Where can you as a leader grow in your view of other people? How do you see people? How do you value them? When you listen to them, what do you think of them? Number two, how can you foster an environment where people feel they can contribute? If you lead an organization, is there a way that people could feel like I'm a part of this, I'm contributing, I'm able to give, and I know that my ideas are valuable. They take it, they listen, and they help them. They put them into practice. Number three, how can you model humility to those you lead? What is a way that you could show people that you value the value of humility and that they matter? How can you model humility to your people? Remember, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking less about yourself. Being less concerned with your person as you give your best to everyone, just as a way of serving them. Number four, what skills that you possess, and this is a really important one, what skills that you possess should you be pouring gasoline on, growing so that the team may benefit? You should always be pursuing to grow and be the best you, not so that you could stand out. And if you do stand out, awesome, way to go. You should stand out, but not because you're trying to stand out, because you're trying to serve the people you're with in the best way possible, with the best you. You're always showing up on fire, on point, ready to go. As a leader, if you want to be a transformational leader, if you want to lead in such a way that you leave a lasting impact, then you must lead with humility. I'm grateful for you, and I am for you. Until next time, AC out.